we go.
So having not read your bio, I'm assuming that most of your work has been at Mercy.
No,
No?
no.
Okay. Set me straight then.
All right, I entered in 54, which makes me going on 61 years. I taught up until the end of 60, and then I was asked to go into gerontology. So I went to Columbia University in New York for 2.5 years, and had a ball, and got my master's in gerontology, and then came back. I was the nursing home administrator of All Saints Home in Jacksonville for 10 years. And then I went down to Mercy for a while. I was there for about maybe 5 years. So not all Mercy.
Okay. So tell me, go back in time. Tell me about, do you remember when you were called to do this work specifically?
I don't know if I was called to do the work. I was asked to do the work. And one of my first questions when Mother asked, I was getting my master's in business education. I taught typing and shorthand, and that kind of dates me. But Mother met with me one May, and she was talking in a vein that I couldn't figure out what she was talking about, that we always had people who loved to teach, but we didn't always have people that would work with the elderly, and I'm wondering, I don't know where she's going with this. I figured she was going to let me go back to Columbia for the year so I could finish and get my master's in business education. Well, it turned out she wanted me to get my master's in gerontology so that I could go to work at All Saints Home in Jacksonville, because the laws were changing at that time. This was 69, and the nursing home administrators had to be licensed, and the individual that was there was a little bit elderly and didn't feel that she could do it. And I had spent a summer there several years prior, and they just thought that I was the person, so I was asked. And I've loved it ever since.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, how did that work out? Was it a rough start?
Fabulous. No, I learned a lot from the books, and when I came to All Saints Home, then I learned how to be an administrator. Because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with families, you're dealing with death, you're dealing with everything. And Sister Ursula, who was really started All Saints Home, was my mentor. She would say, well, don't you think you should do it like this? Or whatever. She was very kind and excellent teacher herself. And no, as time went on, I loved it. I was there for 10 years, and then I was sent down to Mercy Hospital. So
what's your day-to-day like now?
My day-to-day now, today, all right. I'm living in Orlando with Sister Kathleen, who works in vocation, and I have involved myself with St. Margaret Mary Parish. I'm a minister to the sick, and on Tuesdays and Wednesdays I take communion to those who are homebound. I go to an assisted living facility. That's, my Tuesday and Wednesday days. I look forward to it. And it's gratifying because they say, oh, sister, we're so glad you came to see us, or we're so glad you're here, because they have experiences that, you start talking to them, and the things that they have done in their lives, the things that they're still, they're all memories to them, but it's a real education for me. It just kind of keeps me up to date on certain things.
So what makes you happy and what brings you joy?
Well, I think very much, I go to the Beatitudes, some of the things, the sick and the elderly, and being with the frail and the elderly brings a certain joy, because I'm bringing something into their lives. They're bringing something into my life as well. And it's kind of a twofold thing. Just being with the elderly and being able to bring Christ to them is something that I find very, very gratifying. Jesus walked the streets, and I'm bringing him back to them because they cannot get out. So that's what makes me happy and joyful, I guess. Being joyful, I'm a SSJ. Glad to have been called to this life. So.
So when you think back to your childhood and your family life, how you ended up here, how everything just seems to sort of come together, does anything strike you in terms of from your childhood that you sort of knew that this is where you would be?
Not in my childhood. I'm a Navy brat, and we traveled around a lot. And it wasn't really, I will not mention the order, I had another group of sisters teaching me from first grade to eighth. And there was nothing there, nothing at all. It's a wonderful community, but for me, they taught me, and I wanted to leave at 3 o'clock. When I came to Florida, my dad was enrolling me in high school, Catholic high school, and I saw our wonderful sister Alberta, who is no longer with us, just standing on the steps of the school with a rosary in her hand. And it just crossed my mind, that's you someday. And no. My life was all planned out. I love nursing. And when I was a kid, I had the little child's stethoscope and the little hat and thermometer. And I would go around checking everybody out because my life was planned. I was going to become a nurse. I was going to marry a doctor. We were going to have 3 girls and 3 boys. Everything was perfect until I came to Florida. And then, that's when the seed was planted, not before then. And it was a small school in northern Jacksonville, and I got to know the sisters well. And then that school closed and Bishop Kenny opened, and I was a junior then, so I was getting more and more serious about, I don't know if I want to become a nun or not. They seem so happy. There's some serenity. There's something there that, I'd really love to have. And then I met a young man. I was a hostess at a USO, and this gentleman and I got along very well. And in my senior year, I had to make a choice. Which one was it going to be? So we discussed it at length, and I told him, I have to try it. I have to try it. If it doesn't work, you'll be the first one that I tell. So at the end of the 6 months, I sent him an invitation to my reception, and I never heard from him again. But it was a choice. And recently, I just went on a retreat. I was sharing with the sisters this morning, a retreat at San Pedro in Orlando. And Father Anthony did a beautiful talk to the elderly. It's once a month. It's called Elder Day. And they have mass and talks and whatnot. And the theme that he used was called, chosen, consecrated. Now, these were people, they were grandmothers, they were married, And as he talked, I said, that's the same for us. We have all been called, granted. We've all been chosen, granted. But consecrated, in a certain way. But if you have vows, it's a different type of consecration, So it was a real eye-opener for me, to hear, we're on the same plane, but yet we're not. And I've been reading the book, John Paul, Consecrated Life, and that was the very thing that we were talking about this morning, that for example, a married person, all right, they are chaste, they probably have poverty, and if they're working someplace, they definitely have obedience, So in a way, lay people follow the vows. But we have a special gift from the Holy Spirit, and ours is the virginity part of it, like the Blessed Mother, and what we do is very much like what Mother Teresa did. She brings Christ. She brought Christ to others. And that's what we are trying to do, as consecrated women. So, and if we don't know him, we can't bring him to anyone else. So, that's my story.
When we started the conversation, it started with the original 8,
Mm-hmm.
And how when you become a part of an order that has this sort of rich history, is there anything when you either share with others or just even among the sisters that you would want folks to know on the outside, something that comes from the beginning, that even now, today, is something that you know is a part of being a sister of St. Joseph?
Lace making. When the sisters came from France, that's really, they were experts at making lace. They had no way of bringing money into the house. They didn't know the language. So they made lace and sold it to the soldiers, who probably took it to their wives. So I'm living with a sister now who still does the bobbin lace. So you kind of bring those two together, and that's still very much a part of what our early sisters did. So.
You know, maybe just one question about this area. We keep calling it a compound because of the just the way that it's made up, and it's just you and Sister Kathleen in Orlando.
Kathleen in Orlando, right?
So, is it a different kind of environment when you're on retreat together, versus in your daily life, just the two of you, versus like, is it one of those things where, because there's a camaraderie that we keep hearing about, that
Right.
is so seemingly an instrument, a
Yeah.
resource. that
Community
is-
life, no matter, where two or three are together, there Jesus is right in the center. And Sister Kathleen and I have a unique relationship. She is the diocesan director for vocations as well as community director. So she's constantly going to seminaries, going here, going there. She's like the mother to the young men who are studying to be a priest. And I, on the other hand, am involved in ministry to the sick. So I do my thing, she does her thing, but we have morning prayer together. We have evening prayer together. We have our evening meal together. So there's there is, I guess the word that I would call is community life, which is really what makes a community, or a religious. It makes us different from, say, a nurse who can, they can do the same things that we do. They can pray and they can do this and whatever, but community life makes it different. So that's what we do. And many times I go with her because we are community. Where one is, we all are. So when she goes to an ordination, I will accompany her. We go to like New Smyrna Beach and we have a vocation club. I'm with her, and I'm sharing in that. So we have the associates meeting at the house. I'm part of that. So, again, it's even though we are just two, we are strong in community.
You are.
Was.
Tell us about that. When did you start swimming?
In high school.
Yeah.
I hooked up with the Red Cross Aquamaids, and we did shows going from place to place where they call it synchronized swimming now, and at that time it was water ballet. So we were well known. And I went one summer, we did go down and we were mermaids for a weekend. So we have a program that we do in Orlando, and it's called Focus 11, where we focus on 11-year-old and 11th graders, and trying to plant the seed that is God calling you, or what is God calling you to. And we have a little program where religious get together and the children try, it's like not Wheel of Fortune, what's that other game? Jeopardy. And they have so many seconds to try to guess what we were. And there might be 5 of us, and each one of us something like, I might have waiter in front of me, and the person down the hall would have mermaid. And the kids are trying to figure out. So I now have a reputation among St. Augustine and Orlando of being a mermaid. So, but I love swimming. In fact, we have a pool at the convent in Orlando, and Saturday was my first day back in the pool. So looking forward to a nice summer. But yes, I love swimming. Yeah.
It is one of those challenges that we find that when asking sisters about their accomplishments or just about them, that you are not the forefront subject in your own minds to come and to share. That if we were to ask you about things about the church, you have lots. But is there any other secrets that you're not telling us out of those things?
Let me count the ways. Not really. I love teaching. When I was teaching, I taught every grade from the 4th through senior high. But then when I went I've been in gerontology, I started studying in '69, so I've really been with the elderly, from 71 and up until now, and I'm still there. And like I say, I've been in community 61 years, and so I'm saying, gee, she's old, and here I am, I'm 79. So it's a wonderful life. I think there was a movie, It's a Wonderful Life. And I have, just like any other person in the world, there have been ups and downs and challenges and tears and joy and whatnot. But I think if I had to do it over again, I'd do it in a second.